One of my favorite packages to use with Astro is Astro Icon. It takes your SVGs, embeds them directly in your HTML, and minifies them while it's at it. It just went through a big update with 1.0, and I want to show you all about it in this video. Hey, what's up? My name is Chris, and welcome to Coding in Public, where I teach through what I'm currently learning. Today, I want to talk about Astro Icon. This is one of the original packages that shipped with Astro and one of the ones that I use all the time still. They've just upgraded to 1.0. If you're not using it, you need to be. And if you were using it, I want to show you how to get up and running in a new project. Let's go ahead and click Get Started. And what it will basically do is take SVG icons and embed them directly into your HTML. There's lots of benefits to that, including speed, but it also does it in a lot of smart ways, including compressing them, actually creating like a sprite for you automatically so that if you have duplicates of the same icon, it's a lot faster to render on your page. And it all starts with this install script. Now, with 1.0 and above, you actually get some help with the Astro CLI. I happen to be using PNPM, but whatever you're using, you can just copy the command. And I'm going to go ahead and open up my local terminal and just run that command here. Now here you can see it says it's not an official icon, but Nate Moore, one of the creators of Astro, is the one who created this. And so it's safe to install. I'll go ahead and hit yes, and then I'll let it install the package itself. Now with the 1.0, it actually needs to update your Astro config file as well. So I'll go ahead and click yes to continue. All right, so with that said, let's go ahead and get this back up and running. Again, I'm using PNPM, but if you're using NPM, that should work just fine. I should mention this is just the default blog template you get when you use the Astro CLI to install an Astro project. You can, of course, just manually install it and update all the stuff yourself if you'd like to, but once you're done with that, you now just need to add some icons. You'll notice that by default, you can put all of your icons in an icons folder inside of your SRC directory. Then you just need to name them whatever they're named. So like if this is logo.svg, you just type in logo. So let me show you how that might work. Let's come over this way, and I'm just going to create a folder since I don't have one here. We'll just call it icons. And then inside here, all I have to do is add a new icon file. So let's say we do something like icon.svg. Next, let's go ahead and add an SVG, and I've got this extension in Raycast where I can just grab any icon. Let's use this one right here. All right, I'll just paste this directly in here. Now all I have to do is reference it with that name of icon because I named it icon. I guess now that we know what it is, we could call it like rad or something like that since it's a graduation hat. I'll come over here and then come into my index page. Now notice over here, I do have to import the actual component called icon. So let me do that up top here. And now all I have to do is come down anywhere here, let's say right below the H1, and use that icon component. I pass it the name, and again, we call this grad. Then I can simply close out the icon, and then let's go ahead and look at it right over here. It should be shown right there. Now, by default, it's going to use whatever the normal size is, but I can pass along a few different arguments. For instance, I can pass along a width, and I can set this equal to a number, so we could do like, I don't know, 100, something like that, and it should scale for me automatically. But you'll notice that's not quite working because it doesn't know what to do kind of proportionally. You can also do a height as well, but a shorthand for both of those would be size. So size will define both the height and the width. Now there are a couple of other things I can add to this as well, but you'll notice that even if you have subdirectories in here, you can just reference it by the subdirectory and then the name of the icon. So if that helps you keep stuff organized, you can do that as well. Now, speaking of customizing icons that we talked about a moment ago here, you can add a bunch of different source sets that are actually from Iconify, which is a project, an open source project with bunches of icons. You can install the actual package with just Iconify/JSON and then whatever the name of it is here, and then you can reference it down here below. So let's go ahead and do that. Again, I'll use PNPM. We can now reference any of these in just a second once I get this installed. So back up and running, let's go ahead and come over here, and I'm just going to copy this one down. And since we've got this installed, now let's just grab MDM account like this and drop this in directly here. Now, I've got an extension here for Iconify that shows you exactly what that looks like. But if I come over this way, the same thing should show. Now I actually have this, and I have the local one, the local icon I have as well. Now, if I were to inspect this, you're going to notice a couple of things. First of all, it's actually embedded the SVG directly here. Now, one of the benefits of doing that is it can use a local color to style the icon. Let's come over here. If I added something like style color blue, you'll notice that the icon itself actually changes blue. That, of course, has some major advantages, especially if you're creating hover states for like a button that happens to have an icon inside of here. It will just change for you automatically. But if you look a little bit closer, you're going to notice something else, and that is that it's using these symbols. So it actually will set up a sprite for you automatically, and the first time it's used, it's going to load the whole thing in here. If I were to use this exact same icon, though, next, you're going to notice that over here, it's just going to point this use tag directly to the actual sprite. So in other words, it's not double loading this, it's actually using a kind of smart custom sprite. So here we've got two local icons. We've got one from MDI, which is one of those Iconify packages, and you can install as many as you might like and use them wherever you want. Now, this is important to note that in the static site generation mode, which is the default for Astro, it will only obviously bundle whatever you end up using in your project. However, if you're using SSR, you do need to make sure that you're actually cutting out the ones you're not using. This danger tag here tells you that every possible icon in a pack could be actually installed and included in your server's JavaScript bundle by default when you go to deploy it. So what you want to do is make sure you cut out things that you don't want. So let's jump over to the configuration reference, and you're going to notice that you can actually customize which icons show. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to come over here to my Astro config, and inside this Astro icon here, I'm just going to pass in an object. The property name is include, and then I'm just going to include the package type. In this case, it would be MDI. That's the one we happen to install, and I can just say which ones I want. So rather than me typing this all out, let's go ahead and grab this right here, and I can just add this directly here. This means in my final bundled code, if I'm using SSR, which I'm not in this case, but it would only include these three and nothing more from the pack. Now, some packs can contain thousands of icons, so this would really slow your build down if you don't limit which ones are included in your final build. Now let's look a little bit more closely at the components briefly, and I just want to pass along a few things that you might want to know. Number one, you have to pass along the name. That's what we've already mentioned. This is either the Iconify pack or it's the local name of the SVG in your icons directory. You can also pass along a title. This is really helpful if you want it to have like a hover state that pops up and shows the title for you. So for instance, if I come back over here, right here, if I hover over this, nothing is going to happen. However, I could come over here and pass along a title like this. Here we could just say like rad hat or something like that. Now typically this would be whatever the icon is supposed to do, but now if I come here and I hover, you'll notice that it says rad hat, whereas this one does not. Like I already mentioned, you can pass along a size, which is a shorthand for both the width and the height, or you can pass those along separately. Now a moment ago I mentioned that these are automatically optimized sprites. And that's because Astro is smart enough to figure out how often you're referencing a certain icon on any individual page. The very first time that the icon component is used on a page, it will define this symbol, and then anytime the same icon is referenced again, it will only use the use element to render that SVG and reduce the overall size of your HTML. For a little bit better understanding here, you can follow along right here, where they show you this right here with the symbol, and then from here on out, it's just using this use link to point back here. Lastly, let's talk a little bit about CSS and styling. You can customize the CSS for every single icon used on a page with using this data-icon syntax. This attribute is automatically added to all the icons that are rendered by Astro Icon. If you have a particular one, let's say you have one that's named logo, you can just add the equals and then whatever the thing is named. And once again, that would only apply to that individual icon. Now, if you're using something like Tailwind, note that class and anything else that might be included in an SVG tag by default can be passed along, and Astro Icon will actually forward that along. So if you have an ARIA attribute, for instance, or a class name like something with Tailwind, that will all be passed along. So just to show you how that might work, I could come over here and have an ID, for instance, say, I don't know, yo, and I could have a class that says like, hi, all right? And now all I have to do is come over here and inspect this right here, and you're gonna notice a couple of things. I've got this ID of yo and the class of hi. Those have all been passed along. Once again, I can pass along other things like ARIA hidden equals true. And down here, you'll notice it says ARIA hidden equals true. So anything you can include in an SVG tag by default, you can pass along, and Astro Icon will just forward that right along. Now, if you've been using Astro Icon in the past and you want to upgrade, I'd encourage you to follow this upgrade guide. Essentially, you have to just install the latest package and then make sure you update your Astro config. At that point, the only other thing you might need to do is remove any remote API service references. You used to be able to just reference them without installing them, but there were some problems and they weren't always updated on time. And so to kind of mitigate that and let you have full control, you can now download individual packs and use them like I showed you. Lastly, if you're interested more in Astro, I do have a course that's in early access right now. It's the cheapest it will be at $50 right now. And you can see it's already got a ton of content here. We're almost at 5 hours of content. My plan is to have at least 15 and to launch later this spring. If you want the earliest purchase price, though, you can go and grab it now, and I'll leave a link in the description. Hey, well, I hope that was a big help. If you have any trouble while you're upgrading, please leave a comment, and I'll do my best to help you out. Thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Happy coding.